else that's around you, you get a little bit frustrated, and then you're kind of sitting there left holding the bag a few months down the road, or a few weeks down the road, or even worse, you make the mistakes like my business partner and I did, where it's like, Rudy, for anybody that's watched that movie. It's like, I really, really hope this person comes through. I think they can do it. I think they're going to turn into the person with just a little bit more coaching, with just a little bit more polish. They're going to become this person that they're never, ever, ever, ever going to be. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just some people have it and some people don't. So I think that what we've done over the past years, we really identified who our person is. Like, what is it that we're looking for? What person is going to be successful in our culture, in our office? And it's great. I mean, there's a ton of good people out there, but we only want the people that are going to fit our model, because once they get into our model, they're gonna take off. They're gonna explode, and we're not sitting there and beating our head against the wall trying to get somebody that doesn't fit to fit.
I dig it, man. So like that's a good transition. Let's talk about what your model is, because I think that's gonna lead into what we really want to talk about later in the call. But what's your model look like? I mean, what do you guys? How big is your branch? I mean, how many units is each person doing? What do you do? How do you organize your team? What's the guts of this all?
Um, okay, so as far as size goes, I think we have 13 or 14 loan officers, and then we have another 14 or 15 support staff. So we staff up real heavy. We want to provide, like the American Express concierge experience when it comes to customer service to our LOs and then to our realtor referral partners. We cater very, very heavily to the LO. So really what we want them doing is, salespeople are really good at sales. They're really not good at the minutia of the business. They're not good with filling out checklists. They're not good with, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. So we want hunters hunting. So what we tell them is that, hey, we want you out on the street. We want you your highest and best use. So whenever you get a deal, all that we ask for you to do, I use analogies a lot in the office. I know it drives everybody crazy in here, but from a sports perspective, if you're a position player, you know what I mean? Tom Brady doesn't throw the ball to himself. So we want you to be an expert at only that position, and that position is originating loans. It's literally what the name of the position is, loan originator. That implies that you're originating, not compliance specialist, not document observer, not file storage specialist, not customer service representative. You're an originator. So we want the people that are best at that doing only that. So whenever they get a deal, we ask them to do their job and their job only. Make sure that the person qualifies. You obviously looked at their income and looked at their credit, run DU on it, verify that stuff, and then put it in a shared folder to where the next person that you're going to hand the baton off to is going to pick it up and run with it. But once you get to that point, you're done. In our system, you're done. You go back out and you keep hunting.
I like it. Now, you haven't always had that model yourself. I mean, there was a time when you were just a single LO, just kind of trying to make your way.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this last time we met in Florida, like how you tried to build this yourself with with checklists and all this kind of stuff. Um, but what you I think had told me at the time, and I guess I wanted to ask you a question about today was how having that part of the process in order was one of your best marketing and selling propositions when it came to your referral partners. So that's kind of where we're going next with this call. But let's talk a little bit about what you did and what you've done over your career to build systems that delivered high level service for everyone involved.
Sure. I think the biggest game changer for us was Jungo. People call it Salesforce. I always see these, the posts on the LO groups and stuff where it's, what's the best CRM? I mean, the best CRM is the one that you use. It's the one that you build out to actually use the bells and whistles, because everything is a little bit different. And everybody's got an opinion on that. CRMs are like shoes. You got to find the one that's going to be the most comfortable for you. You're the one that has to walk around on it. So I see guys with, Pipe Drive and Lion Desk and all this other stuff. we kind of just hit the ground running with Django about 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And what we like about that is that it's highly customizable. So our version of Django texts clients, texts realtors. It's got a bomb interface to where you can, send a welcome message, a quick video or whatever, all through all the workflows and everything. Got tasks so you can build workflows to keep everybody that comes behind you on pace with some of the stuff that you want them doing. And that really helped us, I guess you could say, keep our life in order when it comes to, putting a file through process. You're talking about from the time that it's originated until the time it's closing, you can go in there and see everything.
So that helped your team stay on task, and that also helped your clients and your real estate partners see what was going on as well, right? There's some automation going out to those parties, letting
Yeah,
them know.
it's heavily automated. It's heavily automated because what happens is that when a loan is working its way through the pipeline or through the natural milestones like an appraisal order, for those that don't have a CRM or any kind of automation, you're sending out an email to kind of be proactive to let the agent know that, hey, we have ordered the appraisal, and then you're sending another email to the listing agent or whatever to let them know that they've ordered the appraisal. And then you're sending another email to the client. Hey, just in case you see a charge on your card for XYZ dollars from XYZ company, that's not fraud, that's me, and that's the appraisal. It's been ordered. So within our CRM, with a click of a button, all those emails go out. And the thought process is that you're trying to beat the person that's going to request that information to the punch. The more time that you are not sat or sitting in front of your email strangled with communication requests, the more time you're going to have to go do your highest and best use, which is originate loans.
I dig it, man. I recently switched companies and moved back to a company that had that built out. I had enjoyed that a few years ago when I built it, worked at the company, and I remember going through the build out process. And a lot of us, put input into it and focused on exactly what you said. We need to communicate at each step in the process. These are what the emails should say. This is when they should go out. Um,
Right.
and one of the challenges we found was that some of the LOs right up front, you could tell were perhaps being dishonest with the realtors and customers about what was actually happening. So building that system forced the sales team to be better at their job and to be more honest with their partners as well. So yeah, I like having that automation embedded for sure.
Yeah, you know the other thing, it's actually saved our butts a few times too, because there's been multiple times where, I mean, sometimes people are dishonest and they don't know if they mean to be, or they're using hearsay as factual information, and that's just not the case. So there's always going to, regardless of how good your system is, we're humans. It's human beings that are operating these systems, and we're all flawed. So there's going to be mistakes that are made. But 95% of the time, the system works, and it works really, really well, and it helps you keep accountable timestamps of times that things happen. So there's multiple times where our system talks to our loan origination system. Well, it did at one point. So that the time that I'm referencing, it's nice because you can see when a certain file is created within the LOS, which means that in the origination system it was created at the same time. So I remember we got accused of dropping the ball a few months ago, and I was able to go back in there and say, hey, listen, guys, you have a contract that was executed on such and such date. The first time that this file even popped up, we have any record of this, literally the contact being created was like 29 days later. Why is that? And then, and they're like, oh, well, yeah. So we're the third lender to speak. So it's not fair to us to say that we dropped the ball and we ordered the appraisal 45 days after that's a true statement. But what you're forgetting is that it's 12 days after we even got put in touch with the client. We even knew that they were walking the face of the earth. So, and by the way, do you want to see that data? I have it screenshotted. I can send it over to you. I'm happy to show you that we took the application, we created the file on the 1st of January. We disclosed it on the 3rd. We had it in processing on the 7th, and we ordered the appraisal on the 9th. So if that's dropping the ball, excuse me, what would be your interpretation of moving faster? Here's that data. And then typically when you're able to go to them with that, they're like, oh, well, man, I really just need to get paid. No kidding.
Now, what I like about that story and what you shared about implementing Jungo. You mentioned you implemented a few years ago. You had a different logo on your shirt. You didn't necessarily let where you were working determine how you needed to market and build and be successful. You rather found companies to plug into, or to allow you just to plug in as a fulfillment center to what you were already doing.
Oh, for sure.
And so that kind of leads to the next question or the next direction I wanted to go. You and I talked about this at the beginning of the call, which is you built these things over time from from what you learned talking to other people, what you learned on your own, what you learned through different programs. But at the end of the day, where's Derek at today? What are you offering as your value proposition to keep such a high percentage of your business as referral based and maybe realtor referral based? So I guess it's kind of two questions. I guess one, break down where your business comes from for you and your team, and then two, talk about maybe what is the value proposition that you guys are putting out there on the streets.
Yeah, that's another really good question. So I would say 90% of our business is realtor referral. We are unfortunately, as most that we're asking for business. But we have a lot of documentation to show why we're better than our competitors. We're able to print out maybe certain things that set us apart. One thing that we do that has instrumentally changed the face of our process is that we started measuring everything. And I mean everything. From whoever's watching this video, if you're an LO, it's nice we implemented what's called an LO scorecard. So we're in this office, we're really, really big on what we call day one quality. And there's no way to sugarcoat it, but if you put in a shit deal, you're going to get a shit result. So we want to know how good those deals are coming in the door. And so what we have is in our setup department, which is the next line after the originator is done with it, our setup department is the one who discloses the file. They order title, the transcripts if they're required, the appraisals, all that stuff, and then they hand them off to the processors. But built into our system, we have a 10-point scorecard, and it's stuff that you kind of take for granted, but it's shocking. It goes back to my point at the beginning of the call. LOs aren't really good at this stuff, so we asked them to do just a little bit, to make sure that they're setting the next person up for success. And we shoot for 8s. And it's like binary. You've either done it or you didn't. There's no half points. There's no quarter points. It's either a point or it's a 0. So what we found is that the deals that come in that have an 8 or higher fly through processing. I mean like lightning speed. Average clear to close date's like 14 days. The deals that are like 4, 5, and 6s, not surprisingly, are 26, 27 days. And you go back and you ask yourself, well, why is that? Well, it's because the person that's coming after you is essentially doing that originator's job. They're reaching out to the client and they're getting stuff that was missed. They're, every single person that comes in on the 1003 has not lived at their house for 2 years and has not been at their job for 2 years. That's not realistic. So what happens is whenever you do the verbal and you're 12 days into the process and then it comes back that they haven't been there 2 years, they've been a year and 7 months, well, now we need the previous employment. So who goes and gets that? Well, the processor reaches back out to the LO, but the LO is out on the street originating business, and they're not really good at that. So you have somebody else that has to take time out of their day and go do somebody else's job. So it also gives us the opportunity to where sometimes certain LOs will say, oh man, my files are just like taking for freaking ever to close, man. I'm like, yeah, dude, because you're turning in shit. And here's how I can prove it. Here's this file that you put in. You got a 4 on. Here's this file that you put in that you got a 5 on. Here's this file that you put in that you got another 5 on. And those deals take 25 days to close. Meanwhile, Bob over here puts in files that are 8s, 9s, and 10s, and his average CTC date is 13 days. So you can do it that way, or you can do it your way, and you can struggle. And what happens is that normally we used to do that, and we used to counsel the people individually, kind of privately, but we kind of started putting it out like almost like a top producer list. So every Monday, our operations manager, Jeff, sends a scorecard to the entire office, and everybody gets to see it. And so a guy that got a 4 or a 5 or a 6 is embarrassed that he got a 4 or a 5 or a 6, because now literally the other 29 people that are reading that email are like, damn, Fish got a 3. He must have turned in a shit file. And then surprisingly, they take
Why are
pride.
you smiling, TJ? Why are you smiling? I see TJ smiling in the background.
Because we know you turn in shit files, Fish. That's why.
Come on, I get at least a 6.5. Come on.
All right, we know your score is going to be 3. Hey, Derek, real quick. So prior to me joining the mortgage business, I worked for this amazing company called MBNA America for 10 years. It was a very large credit card company, greatest company in the world, until we got bought up by those scumbags at Bank of America.
Mhm.
But one of our major things that we always spoke about was gets what gets measured gets attended to. So, and we had a daily running for the entire company called the customer satisfaction score, and it
Yep.
ran every single day. And as management, our bonuses, our quarter or yearly bonuses, were based off of those scores, and those scores tracked everything from how many customer complaints came in to how quickly we answered the phones to how quickly we resolved issues for our customers to our customers' usage of their cards. All these little details were constantly being measured, and then it ran from the top all the way down to the bottom where we're measuring these things and making sure they're getting attended to. And because
Right.
of that, we're a ridiculously successful company. But they're broken down into small little things, right? So you never felt overwhelmed by, holy crap, I've got this 100 of things that I need to get done with this. It's like, oh, today I got to make sure I check this, I check this, I check this, I check this, and these boxes are good. And I know if I do that, my customers are happy at this point. And
Right.
that sounds a little bit about what you have here. And that's very impressive because, as you said, shit fall in, shit fall out. If you can take
There's,
that, get,
and then as you get put in a leadership standpoint, sometimes you're put in positions that are not the most comfortable, and it's so much easier to go to somebody when you actually have non-biased data where you're saying, listen, we're literally measuring, it's not just you, we're literally measuring the other 13 or 14 people, and I'd like to share your results with you because they're a little bit alarming. And my job is to help you help yourself get better. That's ultimately what we need to do here. We say in the office, what do we do to get better today? And if you're literally looking at a scorecard and you're seeing that you're consistently getting 4s, 5s, and 6s, and it's never getting better than that, well, we just talked about at the beginning of the call, how do you identify people that are not model matches to your system? Because what's happening is, like, imagine you're running a relay race, right? And the fourth guy that's supposed to literally run across the ribbon for you is the weakest. You may have the best camaraderie on the face of the planet, but if everybody else is doing their job and you can't rely on this teammate to hold up their end of the deal, literally, his inability or that person's inability to do their job is making everybody else pay. And how's that fair?
right. Now, I think the fact that you just brought up, it goes back to bringing the right people in, right? Because if you have people just, I've managed a lot of loan officers that have been like, look, I'm the best. No one can take a call like me and pitch a VA Earl like I can. And I want to work my schedule, when I want to work, and I want to turn files in, how I want to work. And because they close $2 or $3 million a month, they got, people like, what, just get your shit fixed, right? Those people, they're more trouble than they're worth because, frankly, you're spending so much time fixing their crap that you could have had 2 or 3 other loan officers who fit the system replace their volume and do it with a lot less headaches and do a much better job. So, you said, I think it's so important to have the right people that fit that system that are open to receiving that feedback that you give them. Because if they're not, it's just not going to work.
Oh, there's no question, and I probably have, unfortunately, more stories than I'm proud to share of my miscues and my mistakes. But there's one guy that pops out to me where he's like a 24, $25 million a year producer, and we worked together for a year, and he actually was my old underwriter's colleague, and he reached out to her. And he asked her, "Oh, how are you liking over there?" And she loved it. And so she comes into my office and she says, "Oh, I got this guy. He wants to sit down and talk with you. He's a big producer, but he's a real pain in the ass." And then he comes in and, like, he says all the right things. And I'm just like, kind of thinking to myself, I'm like, that guy's like the nicest guy possibly that I've ever met in my life. I just don't see it. So let's bring him on. And then very, very quickly, at that point in my career, I just don't think that I had either learned the lessons that had kind of burned me enough to stand up for believing in my business and believing in, I watch the Profit a lot on CNBC, and Marcus Lemonis always says you got to trust the process. I don't know if that point in my career I trusted my process enough because I allowed myself to be seduced by that volume, and I became a slave to that volume rather than having that person buy into something that's bigger than themselves. So, I mean, he would just do the craziest shit. He would have he'd have a customer or a realtor call in on his cell phone, and he would literally walk over to my operations manager and say, "Oh, I don't know the answer to that question, but my operations manager does." Boom, and then just hand the phone to him. And I'm like, dude, you can't, like, what the, you can't do that. It's like, oh, and it was always just a struggle with him. So finally, it just got to the point to where I said, look, man, you're super, super talented. Nobody could ever take that away from you. But I think we're just at a point to where I'm going to have to admire your talents from afar because we're going in this direction and you want to go in this direction. And unfortunately for you, there's more people going in this direction, and those people are more important than just one.
Right.
So this is what we're doing. Good luck to you. Let me know if I can, do anything for you in the future. And I got to tell you, man, that was scary as shit, but we are so much better off for it now. I woke up the next morning like, oh my God, I just had like $26 million out the door. What does that mean in revenue? Like how am I going to make up for that? Blah, 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 blah. And it did. It took a minute. But it's funny. It's, when you start having a couple of setbacks or you start having some difficulties, it's just so easy to settle for mediocrity. And you'll start telling yourself, oh, I'm the exception, or, so and so is the exception. That's not the rule. There are excellent people out there that are just unhappy, or they're getting taken advantage of, or they're getting treated just like absolute shit from their current employer. They're out there.
Right.
You just have to work hard enough to find them.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, kind of, we're going off a little off topic. This is why Fish usually waits till the end to bring me in to these things.
Well, you guys are all manager talking. We got some fellows here. They would just want to know how to find more realtors.
No, but if you listen to this, Fish, though, it's not the whole thing comes up, and Derek just said it right there. It's about expecting excellence from yourself, right, and expecting excellence from your team. So whether you're a junior LO that's a dialer for somebody, a seasoned LO, an underwriter, a branch manager, a processor, whatever it is. I think that if we all just kind of follow this model that Derek's put out there of expecting excellence and then tracking your production in what you're doing, that's going to help your job no matter what it is, whether you're in the industry or not, right? If you're an LO and you know that, in Derek's case, you have your guys out there working the streets, right? You said that a bunch of times. Their job is to originate loans.
Yep.
It's to originate loans. So if that LO knows that they need to have 20 conversations to get one deal, whatever it is, and they're measuring that, then they make sure every single day they're having 20 conversations. They're meeting with 10 people or again, whatever those numbers are, but not doing what so many of us do, which is at 6 o'clock on a Monday, I've got a cold, I feel like crap, I'm tired. The Saints lost, my team lost off of a miracle play type of thing. I'm in a bad mood. I'm just going to call it a day and go home and sit in front of the TV and eat a bunch of junk food, right? Because I feel like crap. But expecting a little bit more from yourself to hit those numbers, to hit that, in your case, your scorecard type of thing. I think that we could all build our own scorecard for whatever it is. Derek, do you have any type of, I know you said you have your scorecard for submission of file. Do you have any type of measurement or scorecards for the origination and sales activities?
Yeah, so the other thing that we have for our originators and kind of the people that are looking to get ramped up so they can have a visual is weekly we have a daily success plan. So it's pretty elementary, but it's a piece of paper, and it'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then it'll have prospecting calls, contacts, and then appointments set. So what's nice is what we're really big on here, my business partner and I, Justin, is that at the end of every year, let me see if I've got one. Yeah, so like the end of every year, we sit down with people. I don't know if you can see this, but it says, your 2018 mortgage banking goals, right? we want to make sure that you guys are asking what our value prop is. It's not only our value prop to the realtors, but it's the value prop to the loan originators. How are we going to keep our skills sharp? How are we going to keep you winning? How are we going to keep celebrating your wins? And it's kind of surprising. You ask somebody, hey, what's your goals for 2018? And they'll just be fixated on a number. I want to make fill in the blank number. For some people, it's $100,000. For other people, it's $300,000. That's awesome. How are you going to get there? And then it's like crickets. And so what you do is, where we've had a lot of success, we've backed into that number. Say, okay, well, let's take a look at what you did for 2017. How many credit pulls did you do? How many loan applications did you take? And what we've found is what always seems to be the law of averages is that you are on average, what you deem to have exclusivity with an agent, you're typically going to capture around 25 to 30% of their buyer-controlled business. And what we prospect is agents that are only doing 8 buy-side or more transactions per year. A lot of times people will go in flying blind. It's very easy to get seduced by Zillow, and unfortunately it's a terrible business model. They'll call you up and they're like, hey, I got this rock star agent that's in your market and he really wants to kick off 2018 and looking for a little love and wants to start a relationship with you. And the first time you get that call, you're like, oh, wow.
Dude, I got that call last week. And
exactly.
I have the Zillow killer going out there, and I'm like, screw Zillow and promoting to screw Zillow. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, I got an extra $750. I mean, it's.
That's how it is. I mean, I always see your stuff. I see your stuff on Facebook where, you're showing. So that's a great value prop.
But to your point, Zillow they're great salespeople. Like I said, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, I could do this, and that guy's doing $15 million a year. I'd love to. Just all I need is 25% of his business, and I'm good. But
they're not doing $15 million a year. And what's nice is that when you start tracking, like I told in the beginning of the conversation, we start measuring everything. Measure the people that you're going to prospect. If you're going to go out there and ask for business, the time is the one commodity that you're never, ever, ever going to get back.
Right.
And you want to make sure that the people that you're prospecting actually have the ability to generate business, so you have business to ask for. And on top of that, why would you want to, I mean, no disrespect to anybody that's a realtor that's watching this somehow, some way, but if you're not producing business, all that's going to do is kill the mood, because you're going to feel like, hey, I took this guy out, or I met with this guy and he told me yes, which mentally is a win, but nothing is ever coming from that person. And that person may just not have the ability or know how to generate themselves business. The people or the guys or the girls or the 8 buy-side transactions a year, even if you give them the benefit of the doubt and you round it up, they're closing a deal a month. And that's what you want. They're going to generate you 3, maybe 4 deals a year that you're actually going to be able to work with them on and have a consistent relationship. It's going to be a great foundation for you to build and build up. How can you continue to create value? The other thing is that agents that do 8 or buy-side transactions or more a year, guess who they hang out with? Other agents that do 8 or more buy-side transactions a year. And if you don't know their best friend who may be in a different market or a different county or whatever, and they're hanging out over beers or something like that on the weekend, and the one guy just got paid 15 days early from you, and this other guy is talking about how they can't get anything closed on time or this, that, and the other. Oh man, you got to work with my lender. And then wouldn't you know it? It's funny how karma works like that. Your phone rings. Hey, Fish, this is Derek. I'm buddies with TJ, and he told me all the good things that you guys are doing together, and I got this buyer, and I'd love to just bounce some ideas off of you. Boom! Now you got another referral partner in the hopper. So really, what we look for is, a guy that's starting out or that has not worked in this system. Is we like for them to go to prospect 30 realtors at a time that have 8 buy-side or more transactions per year. Law of averages is going to eliminate 75% of them, because people do business with who they like. You know what I mean? I may be the most competent person on the face of the planet, but you may not like the way I look, or you may not like the way that I talk, or I'm super into sports and you're not, and you're going to weed me out. But the fact of the matter is that 25% of people are going to like me, and they're going to see the value that I bring, and they like my personality, and they want to do business with me. and there's going to be a reciprocity there. So if you're talking about 30 agents a year, and they're doing 8 buy-side or transactions or more, that's 240 deals a year. You slice 75% of those away, you're talking about 60 deals that you're going to capture that could potentially be your referral hopper. And every part of the country is different, but down here our average loan size is around $250,000. Well, you start doing 60 deals a year at $250,000 a pop, you're a $15 million producer, and you're basically making more than 98% of the people walking the face of the planet.
Right, yeah, you're making a pretty good life right there. So, Fish, I don't know what your timing is with this, but I've got to bounce here shortly. So
Okay.
I just want to kind of add one thing, and this goes back to something you said a few minutes ago, Fish. You're talking about what LOs can do to to get better, to get 5 new agents to improve their business. It's I think especially for a newer LO or even a seasoned LO, one of the best things you can do is go find a company or a team that's run by someone like Derek or someone like Jim Prince, whose focus is that the LO is their customer, right? And their job as leaders, branch managers, team leaders, is to build that LO up, put the LO in position of success so the LO can go out and do their job and be successful and not have that constant fight of trying to do 19 things, because when you do that, you fail at all of them, right? So I think that personally, Derek, and I applaud you and your partner, for building this environment, because they're few and far between. We've all networked and met with a lot of loan officers over the last couple of years, and we don't hear many stories like this. Have we, Fish, of teams that are run this way, where it really is built to help everybody succeed at their individual position?
I think a lot of people talk about it, but I've seen Derek's numbers, and I've seen the size of his team, and same thing with Jim Prince. There are very few people that can pull it off and be consistent with it. And as you saw Derek throughout the call, constantly go back to the foundation of being a good LO, and spending your time with the right type of agents, and perhaps using one agent to advocate for you to meet another agent. A lot of this stuff, I say it a lot, it's blocking and tackling, it's meat and potatoes. It's being exceptional at what you do and having more value than the guy down the street. Because at the end of the day, if you spend all your energy marketing and selling, but you can't deliver, those relationships will constantly dwindle. So I guess that would be the last thing I have for Derek, and then we can wrap it up. Would just be, Derek, how much of your business is people you've known for a long time, because of your record of, you're not constantly looking for new leads and new agents all day long. You've got a really solid foundation from all these efforts, right?
Yeah, am I doing that now? No, I'm not. I guess at this point in my career, I would never ever say that is beneath me, because that's certainly not the right terminology. I'm just not prospecting for buyers the way that I once was. I'm prospecting for growth strategies. So the same thing that we were talking about a minute ago, TJ, is one thing that my partner is really good at is he is just militant with making these phone calls, and he prospects for new LOs every day. Whenever we were not doing that, and we were not growing the way that we are now, yes, we were prospecting for new business. And everybody's, what I've found over the past, I don't know, 15 years or whatever that I've been doing this, is that everybody's, it's like cooking almost. It's chefs, they just have different methodologies on the way that they do things, food prep, or the way that they put meals together or whatever. But at the end of the day, the result is the same. I've got one LO who's probably our best, and he hates selling. He almost quit on me like 3 years ago. He literally did. He was like, "Oh, this just isn't for me. I'm gonna go open a restaurant." And I was like, "Why are you gonna do that?" And he was like, "Well, I hate asking for business." And I was like, "Well, okay, so I totally get that." He moved here from Canada, and he owned a restaurant up there. And I said, "Well, you're new here. How are you going to get people to eat your food?" I said, "Don't you dare advertise or anything like that, because that would be asking for business." If I'm understanding you correctly. You should just open up a restaurant and just sit there in the kitchen and just wait for people to freaking walk in. I mean, because they're going to just know you're there and they're going to want to eat your food, right? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, then how's that any different? So instead of you getting on the phone and banging the phone and quote unquote selling, let's find a way for you to create some relationships because that's what you're good at. You're good at monetizing people liking you because he's a super, super likable guy. So that's what we did. We, worked with him and got him in front of a couple of really, really good realtors, and they loved him. He did a bang up job for them. And then all he did is instead of going out and asking somebody that he didn't know for business, he asked people that were already giving him business, hey, would you feel comfortable making a recommendation to me to any of your colleagues that you hear that are struggling with their current lending situation? Or if you hear of them not being able to get their deals closed on time, I would love at least perhaps a warm introduction, and then that way they may be able to take a liking to me, and then boom, it exploded. He did he did just over 20 million bucks last year, his third year in the business.
Wow, that's awesome.
So I've had about 10 folks reach out to me and ask if you would be willing to share any of the checklists that you mentioned on the call. The file setup checklist and the LO 2018 goal checklist. If you could email me or upload those to the group, I think that would benefit a lot of those, and we'd sure appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm seeing Steven. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. I'm just totally going to butcher that, but it looks like Chismadia.
Just the third.
Yeah. So he says, have them break annual goals into quarterly goals. So we actually break it down more than that. So rather than people will get lost in any long-term goal, if you just throw a dartboard at the wall and you have a dart, that's a long-term goal. So what we do is hey, you want to do $20 million this year and your average loan amount is $200,000. That's 100 transactions. Okay. How many people do you have in your database right now? If you don't have that, how many people of those are referring you business? And you break it down to a singular number. You understand what each relationship is in the terms of units. Now we need to go and get more of those. If you don't have that in your pipeline now, that's fine. Let's go find them. But now you know what at least each individual relationship or each individual realtor is worth in the form of referrals, leads, credit pulls, closed loans. And then you put them on a daily plan, weekly plan, monthly plan, and then that leads up to the annual plan. If you're hitting your mark every day, or you get to the point to where, you say, oh, I've got to get a credit pull every day, and you're at Thursday and you have no credit pulls, you are not going to hit your goal. You're just not. There's no Hail Marys in this business. It's consistency. And, you do see, I forget what I was watching last night, but I think it was like $1 Billion Buyer or something like that. And he said something that was just so, it just resonated so well. He was like, there's no home runs in business. There's small wins. It's like you plant a seed and you keep watering it and you shower it with sunlight and then it grows slowly every day. You're not going to go from 0 to $20 million with the exception of Andrew Cady, for example. I mean, that guy is, a machine. But again, that's not, he's done a phenomenal job for himself. That would not be the norm. Setting people up for short-term goals so that they're hitting them on daily, weekly, monthly, and then annual bases, they'd be shocked. At the end of the year, you're like, oh my God, I made $250,000 this year.
Cool. Well, we definitely appreciate your time, Derek. I don't have anything else. I mean, I truly enjoyed this call. This one was as good for me as I think it was for hopefully everybody that's watching. If you have any questions of Derek, if you're anywhere close to South Florida, I guess, Derek, just tell them where you're at. They can reach out to you, and we'll wrap this up and upload a couple of these tools and hopefully continue to bring you valuable hangouts like this and network with each other. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. I will say is, early on in my career, I was just a total asshole. I did not buy into the abundance mentality. I remember being a ignorant 24, 25-year-old kid who, at that point in my life, I could sell anything to anybody, and that was a mental crutch for me, and I really enjoyed that. I really loved that. But as I got older and older and I got more grizzled, I realized that I really truly do every business is built on relationships, and I have totally embraced the abundance mentality. So even if we are in the same market, I don't know whoever's watching this video, if you guys are in Florida or even if you're in South Florida, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. If there's anything that I could do to help, there's so much business out there. I certainly didn't get here by nobody helping me. I had a lot of people help me. And, we live very much by the giver's gain mentality. And, there's a lot to be said for helping other colleagues get to where they want to be and, sometimes even more successful than where we're at. And that's great. I'd love to have a part in that. So if anybody has any questions or anything like that, you can feel free to reach out. You just want me to toss like my address out or my email address out there, Fish, or
Just
what?
tell them you're at Fairway and where your branch is. They can find you online. You're Googleable. I found you pretty
That's
easily.
true. So I'm at Fairway Independent Mortgage here in sunny South Florida, and if simple Google search will point you right to me.
So, and he's a Steelers fan, so we try not to hold that against him.
Get the bet on Sunday, but
Hey, if I had known during this conversation you were a Steelers fan when I made my football analogy earlier, I definitely would have been making fun of the Steelers. But
that's all good,
I
man.
went Saints instead. I apologize. So, but hey, man, this is awesome. We really appreciate this and kind of your giver's gain. Look, that's what the MLO Network's all about. Right, Fish? It is what Fish has been hammering me about for years now. It's about us all coming together as a group, as a industry to help each other out. Because, as you said, there's so much business that's out there that the people who really want to bust their ass, whether they're brand new or whether they're a 20-year pro, we can all help each other achieve the level of success that we want. So, really appreciate you being here. Fish, as always, man, great job. Thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys.
So cool. All right, Fish, anything to take us out on?
Well, we got a pre-app call. I loaded up a lot of hangouts this month. I probably won't be doing this many throughout the year, but if you guys want to hang out on a pre-app call this afternoon, these are in the video section of the group. If you want to see some of the previous ones, go to the videos in the group. You can watch them. And that's all I got. Thanks for your time, Derek. Thanks for sharing some of your work tools with us in the group, and we'll wish you luck. And if you are anywhere close to Derek's office, or Derek, if you're anywhere close to my office, let's all hook up.
Yeah, I definitely want to get out and play some golf next time I'm up there in the freezing cold, buddy.
Well, we won't point out how you played golf last time, and I wasn't invited. I know you guys already had your foursome set. It's all good. All right. Peace out, guys.
All right, boys.
Have a great day.
Have a good day.